Very good afternoon. You're watching the Midday News on Rajya Sabha television. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor with you. Let us start the news bulletin with the top headlines. 10 days after taking oath for the second term, Modi government tightens noose on corrupt bureaucrats, dismisses 12 senior income tax officials on charges of corruption, one joint commissioner, principal commissioners and commissioner ordered compulsory retirement. Prime Minister Modi to attend SCO summit in Kyrgyzstan's capital Bishkek on Friday to also hold bilateral talks with the leadership of Kyrgyzstan, Russia and China. Fight against terrorism and defense matters to be the highlight of the talks. In an early morning encounter, security forces neutralized 2 terrorists in Jammu and Kashmir's Shopian district. Huge cache of arms and ammunition recovered as search operations continue. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar flags off a first batch of pilgrims for the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra. Over 100 pilgrims in 28 batches to undertake the 24-day-long government-run Yatra via 2 routes in Uttarakhand and Sikkim. No respite from heat as mercury continues to rise. Delhi records the highest ever temperature in June at 48 degrees. Churu sizzles at 50. Centre convenes urgent meeting with the states on water crisis. The top story this afternoon news just coming in. BJP MP Virendra Kumar will be the Protem Lok Sabha Speaker. 7-time MP Kumar is the sitting member of parliament from Madhya Pradesh's Tikamgarh seat. Now Kumar retained his seat in the recently concluded general elections. In his previous stint in the 2014 government, Kumar served as the MOS in the Women and Child Development Ministry. The pro-tem speaker performs the duties of the office of the speaker from the commencement of the sitting of the Lok Sabha till the election of the speaker. Kumar will administer the oath of office to new members of the Lok Sabha in the first parliament session of the 17th Lok Sabha beginning from the 17th of this month. Let's get more details from Panchanan Mishra, our colleague joining us on the phone line. Panchanan, what more details can you give us regarding BJP MP Virendra Kumar decided to be the pro-tem Lok Sabha Speaker?
Aishwarya, from the government sources and from the sources in Parliament, it is now clear that Virendra Kumar, who is the 7th time Lok Sabha MP, he is a sitting MP from Tikamgarh, will be the pro-tem speaker. And as you mentioned, that the pro-tem speaker performs this oath, all the oath ceremony in the Lok Sabha, and till the speaker, the election of the speaker is over, he performs his duties. His period is very brief, but it's very important. And as the new Lok Sabha constitutes, the pro-tem speaker, the pro-tem speaker's role comes into play. So Virendra Kumar will be the pro-tem speaker, and on 19th of this June, that's the 3rd day of Lok Sabha, there will be election of speaker. Till then, Virendra Kumar will be the speaker.
All right. So Dr. Virendra Kumar will also preside over the first meeting of the 17th Lok Sabha, in which a speaker will also be elected. Thank you, Panchanan, for those updates. But you stay with us. We'll come back to you for more on subsequent stories. Prime Minister Nirav Modi will address the summit at the SCO, that is the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, in Kyrgyzstan capital Bishkek later this week. Now, during the 2-day summit, PM Modi is expected to pitch for a strong and decisive action to deal with terrorism. He's also expected to emphasize on the need for enhancing connectivity among the members of the grouping to boost overall growth. Enhancing defense cooperation among the SCO countries and boosting connectivity in the region are also expected to be the key focus areas of the summit. The Prime Minister will also hold a series of important bilateral meetings with the Chinese President Xi Jinping and Russian President Vladimir Putin on the sidelines of the summit. However, there is no meeting scheduled between PM Modi and Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan. Now, this year's SCO, remember, is scheduled for 13th and 14th of June.
There is indeed scope for bilateral meetings, and we're happy to confirm bilateral meetings with Russia and China as taking place on the margins of the SCO summit. There will be, and there are other requests also. These tend to be processed, taking into account the limited time available. I will also go on to mention that this is a very special visit because there is a bilateral component also. On 14th of June in the late afternoon will be the India-Kyrgyzstan bilateral segment.
And Prime Minister Narendra Modi will also attend the outreach session of the G7 summit in France. The Prime Minister has accepted the invitation that was extended to him by French President Emmanuel Macron to attend the summit as a special invitee. The 45th summit of the G7 group of countries will take place from 24th to 26th of August in France. Meanwhile, in a meeting with the secretaries of all the ministries on Monday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi asked the top bureaucrats to prepare a 5-year plan for each ministry with the well-defined targets and milestones in sync with the people's mandate. Setting the agenda for the next 5 years of his governance, the Prime Minister asked each ministry to come out with an impactful decision for which approvals will have to be taken within 100 days. In his interaction, the Prime Minister also said that the mandate in the Lok Sabha polls reflect the will and the aspirations of the people to change the status quo and seek a better life for themselves. He also asked the officials to begin work on making India a $5 trillion economy. And during the interaction, various secretaries also shared their vision and ideas on subjects like administrative decision-making, agriculture, rural development and Panchayati Raj, IT initiatives, skill development, healthcare and industrial policy. The meeting was also attended by Union Ministers Rajnath Singh, Amit Shah, Nirmala Sitharaman and Jitendra Singh. And in a first such move, the government has ordered a compulsory retirement of 12 senior IT officers on charges of corruption and misconduct. The posts of the officers dismissed range from joint commissioners, chief commissioners, principal commissioners and commissioners. Now, 8 of these officers are being investigated by the CBI on serious corruption charges. And among the officers dismissed are a joint commissioner rank officer against whom there are serious complaints of corruption and extortion. And it also includes an IRS officer who is accused of sexual harassment and another IRS officer who has acquired movable and immovable assets worth over 3 crore rupees. Let's get a perspective. Panchanan Mishra, our colleague, is joining us on the phone line. Panchanan, we have been discussing this, that Rule 56J provides for compulsory retirement of these government staff in public interest. And this rule has existed for several decades, but the central government has, rarely invoked this rule. And Modi government really has sent out a very strong message now by using this rule and dismissing these 12 IT officers for corruption and misconduct.
Obviously, very strong action has been taken, and you can say it is an unprecedented action. And the government has made it very clear that there will be no tolerance for the corruption. And as these 12 officers has been, you may say, it's sacked for this misconduct and corruption. The message has been given to the bureaucracy, not only to bureaucracy, but entire administration, that corruption and misconduct will not be tolerated. And you must remember that 3 years before, there was such incident with 2 or 3 officers their services was ended due to non-performance. So non-performance and corruption will not be tolerated. And first time, this is strong action against 12 very senior officials has been taken. And this is also a case where we have seen that at the joint secretary level, there was an entry in the bureaucracy who are a professional. So entire scenario, you may understand that when there was a meeting with secretaries, Prime Minister was taking meeting with secretaries, and the news came in that 12 such a senior officers, the action has been taken. It's a strong message to the entire administration, entire bureaucracy that either perform or you have to go.
Absolutely. Thank you, Panchanan, for all those updates there. And on to the other very big story, a very important story that everybody will be taking a keen look at, and that is the centre holding a meeting with the representatives of various states on the issue of water conservation and a drinking water crisis today. Now, this meeting will be chaired by Jal Shakti Minister Gajendra Singh Shekhawat. The meeting has been called in the backdrop of a reported alarming situation of the water levels in reservoirs across the country. As many as 91 reservoirs across the country have recorded the lowest water levels. And as per the latest data, the water storage available in 91 major reservoirs in the country was 31.65 billion cubic meters, which is 20% of the total storage capacity of these reservoirs. Our colleague Anu Diwan is joining us on the phone line. She's tracking that meeting very, very closely. Anu, now as far as, one of the very important steps that were taken by the Modi government in the second phase, of course, was the creation of a Jal Shakti ministry. And this ministry is holding its first meeting today. And, this meeting is especially very important because, there is a heat wave sweeping across North India. Water levels in major reservoirs have fallen to 20% of the average of the last decade. So tell us about the meeting and what time is it scheduled? What can we expect out of this meeting?
Exactly, Aishwarya. We are seeing the weather situation in the country. The meeting has been called upon where all the ministers from the various states are present here and being representing their state and telling the situation of their state. Meanwhile, the meeting is still going on and is expected to take a little longer because there are most of the states are here and they are representing their states and the situation there. And they are also telling of the ministry that what all is required in the state. Like we have just listened to the Maharashtra. If we talk about the Maharashtra is still prevailing with the situation of water scarcity and has asked for the various fund allocation and has asked for the fund allocation. So these type of fund allocation the projects for the water reservoirs and various other plans and various other projects. They are representing their state. We are making up the presentation to the minister so that whatever the Jal Shakti ministry come up with a plan for the 100 days agenda or the next 5 years agenda should take up the issues of the state and concentrate on the plan and the project presented by the ministers and the secretaries right here in the first very meeting conveyed by the Jal Shakti Ministry, which is being held today. And meanwhile, if I talk about Aishwarya, the meeting is still going on and it's going to take longer because all the states are representing their issues and are also talking about the various measures which can be taken so that the ministry take up a project or whatever the plan ministry comes up. All the states are covered and all the situations are covered and all the steps are taken so that the water scarcity issue is resolved under this phase of Modi government.
All right. Thank you so much, Anu, for all those details. You keep tracking that development. We'll keep coming back to you. And ahead of the NDA's government's budget presentation next month, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will hold pre-budget consultations with the agriculture experts today. In the meeting, Nirmala Sitharaman is likely to seek the views of agriculture organizations and farm economists on ways to boost the farm sector growth and increase the farmers' income. She is also scheduled to meet economists and representatives of the banks and financial institutions as well as industry chambers in the coming days. Remember, the regular budget for 2019-20 will be presented on 5th of July. We'll take a very short break here. News and updates will continue on the other side. Stay with us.
Rabindranath Tagore was awarded the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1913 for his book Gitanjali. In 1950, he composed the music and lyrics for India's national anthem, Jana Gana Mana. And when Bangladesh became independent in 1971, they chose Tagore's song, Amar Shonar Bangla, as its national anthem. Tagore's life and works have made him a cultural icon, studied the world over, even into the 21st century.
Welcome back. News from Jammu and Kashmir, where 2 terrorists have been killed in an encounter with the security forces in Shopian district of Jammu and Kashmir earlier today. According to the police, security forces launched a cordon and search operation in Onira area of Shopian in the early hours after receiving information about the presence of terrorists here. However, the search operation turned into an encounter after the terrorists opened fire towards security forces. Police also recovered arms and ammunition from the scene of the encounter. The identity and the group affiliation of the terrorists is being ascertained at the moment. And in another news from the valley, an army jawan was martyred and 3 others were injured in LOC firing in Jammu and Kashmir's Poonch district on Monday. This after Pakistani army violated the ceasefire and targeted forward posts in the Doda battalion area. Weather updates now, and severe heat wave continues to grip the entire north and central India, even as the monsoons are advancing in the southern state of Kerala. The mercury yesterday shattered all records in Delhi, with parts of the national capital recording 48 degrees Celsius, which is the highest for the month of June. States of Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh also experienced the maximum temperatures of 45 degrees Celsius, while the highest temperature was recorded in Churu, Rajasthan at 50 degrees. Jammu also recorded the hottest day of the season yesterday at 44.4 degrees Celsius, while Banda was the hottest place in Uttar Pradesh, where the mercury soared to 49.2 degrees Celsius. Maximum temperatures of 40 degrees or more are likely to persist over Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, Gujarat, Maharashtra, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. Meanwhile, after Kerala, the monsoon has now reached Maharashtra, bringing relief to the people of Mumbai. The southwest monsoon continues to progress into the remaining parts of the South Arabian Sea and the Lakshadweep area, with the heavy rains over Kerala, Andaman and Nicobar Islands and Lakshadweep. And according to the Met Department, severe cyclonic storm is likely to hit Gujarat on Wednesday, and it is likely to bring a heavy rainfall along the entire western coast this week. And relief from heat wave is also in sight for northwest India, including Delhi and NCR, as the pre-monsoon activities are likely to start from tomorrow. Fugitive diamond heir Nirav Modi will appear before the UK High Court for his 4th bail petition in the extradition case to India today. Nirav Modi was remanded till 27th of June by the British court after his 3rd bail petition was rejected by the UK court last month. Remember, Nirav Modi is wanted in India and he is facing charges of fraud and money laundering amounting to nearly $2 billion in the Punjab National Bank scam case. Nirav Modi was arrested by the Scotland Yard on an extradition warrant in central London in the month of March, and he has been lodged in a London jail since then. And back home, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar today flagged off the first batch of the pilgrims of the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra. The first group consists of 58 pilgrims and 2 liaison officers. There are, remember, 2 routes for the 24-day-long yatra through the Lipuleg Pass in Uttarakhand and through Nathula Pass in Sikkim. Now, this year, the route through Lipuleg Pass will be conducted in 18 batches of 60 pilgrims each, and the route through Nathula Pass, Sikkim will have 10 batches consisting of 50 pilgrims each.
We have also decided to include 2 liaison officers per batch to assist the yatris more effectively. And as part of our efforts to improve the Yatra experience, we have decided to include liaison officers who have been there before. So that, because it is not an easy Yatra, that is something I think all of you know. And I think to have experienced people with you will be very, very useful. The Yatra is considered one of the most difficult pilgrimages in the world. But I'm sure that you all know that it passes through what is both difficult territory but also beautiful territory.
US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo will visit India later this month. Speaking to reporters in Washington, Mike Pompeo said that he will outline areas for new cooperation with the newly elected Modi government, as the India-US relationship is incredibly important to both the countries. New Delhi would be Pompeo's first stop, and South Korea would be his last stop during the nearly week-long visit to the entire Indo-Pacific region beginning 24th of June. Pompeo will also visit Sri Lanka and Japan. Before starting his trip, Pompeo will also address the India Idea Summit of US-India Business Council in Washington on Wednesday. The top international focus, US President Donald Trump has threatened to raise tariffs on China yet again if President Xi Jinping doesn't meet with him at the upcoming G20 summit in Japan. His response came in an interview with a television channel. Donald Trump said that another round of punitive tariffs on Chinese imports will be imposed if it cannot make progress in trade talks with the Chinese president at the G20 summit later this month. Since 2 days of talks to resolve the US-China trade dispute last month in Washington ended in a stalemate, Donald Trump has repeatedly said that he expected to meet Chinese President Xi Jinping at the summit in Japan. However, China has not confirmed any such meeting. Trade talks with China hit an impasse last month after Trump accused Beijing of reneging on the provisions of a tentative agreement. The two countries have escalated their trade war since then. And Iran has warned the United States that it cannot expect to stay safe after launching an economic war against Tehran. Iran's Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif said this on Monday, that those waging an economic war against Tehran through US sanctions could not expect to remain safe. He made the remarks at a Tehran news conference with his visiting German counterpart, Kumar. He added that the only way to decrease tensions in the region is to stop the economic war, emphasizing that Germany and the EU had an important role to play in such efforts. Remember, US President Donald Trump has imposed sweeping sanctions on Iran after walking away from the 2015 nuclear deal between Tehran and the world powers that eased sanctions in exchange for curbs on its atomic program. And now all the cricketing action from the ICC World Cup. South Africa and the West Indies were forced to share a point each after their match was called off due to heavy rains in Southampton on Monday. South Africa was struggling at 29 for 2 in 7.3 overs before the rain arrived. And after having lost their previous 3 matches, South Africa now has earned only 1 point from 4 of their games. On the other hand, West Indies stand on 3 points from 3 games after having lost 1 match to Australia and winning 1 match against Pakistan. And talking about today's matches, well, today Bangladesh will face Sri Lanka in Bristol. That's the wrap on this edition of Midday News. But before we go, here is a quick look at today's yoga video tweeted by the Prime Minister. In this 3D animation video, PM Modi is shown practicing the Bhadrasana. Now, this is the 8th yoga video that has been tweeted by the Prime Minister ahead of the International Yoga Day on 21st of June. So take a look at this asana as I take your leave. Thanks so much for watching.
सामने की तरफ फैलाकर सीधे बैठें और अपने हाथों को अपने कूल्हों के पास रखें। ध्यान रखें कि आपके शरीर का वजन हाथों पे ना पड़े। इस मुद्रा को दंडासन कहा जाता है। अब दंडासन की स्थिति में धीरे से अपनी सांस छोड़ते हुए अपने पैरों के तलवों को आपस में जोड़ें। अब अपने हाथों को अपने पैरों के अंगूठों पर कसें और धीरे धीरे अपने दोनों पैरों की एड़ियों को जितना संभव हो उतना मूलाधार के पास लाएं। अगर ऐसा करते हुए आपकी जांघें जमीन को ना छू रही हों, तो आप उनके नीचे तकिया रखकर उन्हें सहारा दे सकते हैं। भद्रासन एक विराम आसन यानी लंबे समय तक बैठे रहने की मुद्रा है। इसलिए अब इस मुद्रा में आंख बंद करके सामान्य रूप से सांस लें और छोड़ें। भद्रासन शरीर को दृढ़ रखता है और मस्तिष्क को